So I think also just talking about the meta a little bit for League of Legends, because I think a broader concept that we should discuss is that there has been complaints about the staleness of the meta this year, and like obviously these clips of Cadril have come up with him, like, I mean, obviously, like, fake outrage for entertainment about the staleness of the meta, flipping out on his stream when we get to see, Zeri Yumi versus Aphelios Lulu for the umpteenth time this year.
What actor he actually has become, isn't it, Rich? You knew this guy. Like, he
great.
used to be a mega quiet little nerd. Like, that's why when I first brought him on my shows, I was like, bloody hell, mate. What you're saying straight fire, but it's so boring. Like, no one's going to, it's too dry. Now he actually is just like the ultimate reaction. We're like, oh my God, what the? Carrier! Just like, oh, it's ridiculous. It's amazing. I love it.
So I think like what's interesting about this current situation is, first off, thank God they banned Yumi from MSI. That was the biggest, solid that Riot has done us in terms of champion bans in the competitive space, because now Yumi is not incredibly oppressive as she used to be, but she still has very strong synergy with Zeri, as we've seen in some of the LPL games that have happened so far. But basically what this meta has turned into is like this cleanup janitorial meta, where if you get one kill in the mid and late game, like Viego or Zeri or Jinx just reset all over your ass, and then the game just ends. And I have to say, like, the longer this goes on, like, we started to see the creep of this towards the playoff of MSI, where teams just realized that you could do this. And it's getting pretty stale because it feels like the stakes are just insanely high for like one misplay in a game, and everything just ends.
By the way, I'll just throw this out there. This is where I'm so legit. I don't even go after just clicks. The joke here is I just get clicks from who I am, mate. I just put my real opinions and I get all the clicks anyway. You saw those fucking analytics I posted, like 44 million fucking views last month or whatever on Twitter. But I actually have headlines I don't even go with that are even more fire. Like a real quote, this is a real quote from that Sven Reflections interview I did, was he said that he wasn't joking, that he thinks Aphelios is the pinnacle of champ design. That's a headline I could have run with all day long. I didn't. I did it one about like fucking something else, like Bjergsen or some shit like that, some other fucking angle. So I think what's mad is they're never ever going to have a perfect meta. It's not going to ever come close. We're never going to have fucking Brood War or whatever people think fondly of. So to me, it's always pick your poison. And the question is, what do you want to be OP? So like Yumi does suck, but at the same time, it's a support champion. You know what I mean? Sometimes there's like a top lane champion that's broken as fuck. I mean, I even think, quite frankly, people don't complain about it because no one cares about top laners. But in a way, isn't Cassante still overtuned? Doesn't it have like a million stuns and he can still go forwards and shields? And it has that thing people used to do when they used to build Tank Echo, where it was doing damage, but it had all the tank items and it could get out. It's like, what is this champion? Like, so I think some of that's still wild too. Like, to me, the meta is scuffed in some ways, but I also say, I think actually the last year and a half probably been the best League of Legends been in many, many, many years. Like, in general, they have sort of nailed some of the metas.
Yeah, I think sorry, I was just going to say, well, it reminds me of, this is going back, but we played a best of 5 against Fnatic, and I remember in game 5, it was just happened that on this patch, there was this weird thing where like the millisecond the clock ticked over, whatever it was, like 28 minutes or something, the death timers like shot through the roof. And we were like, whatever it was, like 12-2 up in kills or something, lost one innocuous team fight, and they just ended the game off that at like 28 minutes. And the casters were even like, oh, whoa, okay, I guess the game's just over. And I remember this happened again. We were sort of joking about it before on a different podcast when it was T1 versus Genji, I think, when Cassante went over the blue buff wall and took whoever it was out of the fight. And they were like, oh no, now after all that, the game's just going to end. Oh, that really sucks. But I actually looked at the clock. It was actually fairly early in the game and they just ended the fight off just this random team fight. So I do think that these are some things that are actually fairly easy to tweak. Obviously, you can do it with champions or how quickly it takes to push towers. Like you can just buff towers, for example, if you don't want to change the death timers. But to me, that aspect is a fairly easy tweak. When it comes to Yumi, to me, Yumi's a weird one because Yumi is such a, let's be honest, it's a really skilled, like people will argue there's nuance or whatever, but it's a pretty skillless champion for the most part. And to me, it's okay that champion exists if it's underpowered and it just it's used in low elo for people to learn the game. It's like basically like a tutorial champion or whatever. Like I don't think it should be competitively viable though. I don't think something that is so basic and skillless should ever be overtuned. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Surely you want high skill ceiling to get the absolute maximum sort of worth out of a champion, not low ceiling. So I think it's kind of unforgivable that you can have multiple periods of time in the competitive game where Yuumi is really like S tier. It should never be pick ban. Like it should never be like default has to be pick banned. I think that's just absurd. So I say nerf that little shit into the ground. I mean, they did just change her quite a lot, right? So I'm not really sure how that's gonna play out like in the new season or whatever, like to see because I haven't really watched LPL yet, so I don't really know how those games have been going.
She's still extremely strong.
Okay, well I just say nerf that shit into the ground. Nerf it and keep nerfing it until LPL teams stop picking it. That would seem like a pretty good barometer.
She's the most banned champion in the league with 42 bans, and she's been played in 6 games and is 4-2.
By the way, the other thing, I've actually remembered the real reason I didn't use the Aphelios quote. It's because I had the banger Reggie quote, where Reggie, when he would come in the LCS VOD reviews for TSM, would unironically say to Sven, why don't you dodge Kaiser Q, which is a targeted ability? Now, what's great there is, in this analogy, everyone on Twitter and Reddit is Reggie, because you're like, LCS teams, why don't you just spend less money and have better results and develop any talent and not get into money troubles? Like, you're just like that. It's too late, mate. The ability's targeted at this point in time. Like, we had to fix that 10 years ago, you moron. You can't dodge it now. It's over, isn't it? In that case, just dissolve the league and make all that hundreds of millions worth nothing and just make a new league that's a challenger league. Like, same people, by the way, I kept saying for 10 years, I hate franchised leagues. I hate not having open circuits. You idiot. It's the only way we're all going to make money from all the sponsors. Like, that's probably the worst thing about Reddit. It's just the pure gaslighting. It's the fact that they'll repeat back to you your own opinion and go, we always thought this. Like, bro, I'm not even joking. If you go onto Reddit, they all now claim that like everyone knew that the Overwatch League would fail. Everyone knew that like this didn't make sense to have franchising. Everyone knew that, of course the Academy players do get paid too much. Like the new thing on Reddit is you just take essentially the most popular opinion now and you just repeat it. It's just garbage. Just garbage.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think as much to your point earlier, Thorin, about the meta being good, I actually really enjoyed the World's meta last year, and I was enjoying the recent meta.
Was good too.
Up until like deeper into MSI, where it did get kind of stale, I feel, and even a lot of the big changes.
Lost. Whatever, it's an old joke, but it's a good one. Keep going.
Yeah, it's because I got bored when the Korean teams lost. No, not because of that.
Jace mid lane, get out the fucking game, I say, get out the game, and also fucking playing Zaya. I don't think so.
I just don't want to continue to see champions like Annie, to your point, Rich, like Annie and Yuumi dominate the meta that are very like binary low skill expression champions. And I still don't see an issue with Yuumi being banned forever from pro play because they clearly want people who don't play League of Legends to play this champion. And that's fine for solo queue, but why can't we just ban Yuumi forever? Like, do we really lose anything if Riot's just like, you know what? We have to have this champion for business reasons, but it is fucking terrible for pro play, so let's just not have it in pro play. Like, why isn't that an option? Worked at MSI. Did anybody complain about not watching Yuumi at MSI? No.
This is the thing, though. I think that you can't ban it because then what will happen is the narrative will just change into pro players saying, why am I getting this shit in high elo? I never have to play that. I think you have to nerf it so that it's just unplayable. Or just delete it if you want. Just refund whoever bought the skins and delete it. Like, I don't know. But I think, as I said, I do think they'll just pivot into complaining that they have to play against it in solo queue. And then you say, okay, well, not for high elo, which is Masters Plus or whatever. And then D1 players like, oh my God, why the fuck do I have to play against Yuumi? Like, to me, the only solution is you nerf it. But
this is why, to me, I actually agree with this Sven point. Once it wasn't overtuned, like the first 6 months or whatever, the reason Aphelios is a good champion is because it's really fucking difficult to make be OP as fuck. It isn't like just the simple aspect of Yuumi.
It does have a high skill cap.
It's like, I even will dispute the Annie point. Look, I'm not a fan of watching the champion. I think it's bad. But I'll tell you what, just go and look at how fucking Knight played Annie versus how Faker played Annie. If there's no hands involved, then what's going on? In theory, people would even tell me Faker is supposed to be smarter than Knight. Like, there's still hands. There's still, like, timings. There's still what you do with your teammates. So my thing is like what Rich said. I don't mind really difficult things. I like things to be OP. Just make it really high skill cap to reach that. The problem with Yuumi is it doesn't do anything. You just sit back and it just fucking carries. The joke is Mercer has a whole fucking LEC career because of Yuumi. And so in a way, you could say Vethio has some MVPs, but that's a bit more of an edgy take. A little bit more of an edgy on that one.
Yeah. But I will say at least one of the mercies behind a lot of the leagues starting later than LPL is I think it's going to cause Riot to react more quickly to some of these changes. In fact, I saw that Riot August tweeted like an hour ago. Right? Yeah, he's one of the designers, saying that they are changing her synergy with Trinity Force, which has been an issue, especially with the new ADC itemizations. So that, and also shields for enchanters, the way she interacts with shields. So I think that it's a small mercy. I mean, for many reasons that the LCS was delayed, chief among them that I don't have to watch it. But also that at least most of these leagues, like LCK is starting this week. We still have a couple weeks till LEC begins. LCS, we just don't know when or if it's going to be back. I imagine it'll be back next week, not this week, but next week, if I had to guess. And so I think like at least there's going to be some time to get some patches down so we don't have to suffer through this for very much longer. But I will say that a lot of this is disappointing. So, not my favorite meta.
To answer Rich, though, he's fallen into his own trap there, hasn't he? Because he's made the stupid assumption that Riot and the people who they balance for are, in any context, people who know about the pro scene. Remember, there was that game dev who worked at Riot, who, I guess this is just part of the, like, no-shame society we're in and just acceptance of all people and their failures and celebration of failure. Because there was that game dev who came out and said that they're in, like, gold or something. Do you remember the one I'm on about? There was one that famously came out.
Oh, yeah.
And she just said they were like a gold player or something mental like that.
Yeah.
So that's who the game
I
for.
think it was even. I thought it was even for like some notoriously awful design champion as well. I can't remember who the champion was, but it was like the justification was interesting to say the least. It might even have been Aphelios. Was it Aphelios? Did she do Aphelios?
Does anyone know? Anyone in chat know? Don't worry about it.
Well, whatever. I have to say,
the lead balance designer is low bronze, according to Yaska. Okay. Low bronze.
Well, I do appreciate
like on this guy with my pike.
I do appreciate, by the way, that at least for one of the main benefits of Freak going onto the balance team has been, even if you don't agree with his points, he does make some very good videos about the thought process behind them.
OP. Should have seen it coming. Now the ADCs do tons of damage.
I mean, he is an ADC player, so definitely, he's had a big hand, I think, in the ADC item redesign.
At least we can all be certain that Rumble Jungle won't get OP. All the old ones are the best ones. Apparently, it was Riot Bright Moon was the name of the person. Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, I do appreciate that there's at least a lot more communication and insight into some of the decision making behind the meta and what their goals are. So at least you can see if their goals are being successful. But I mean, I think Freak also doesn't like Yuumi very much, and a big part of the motivation behind making the changes they did was they tried to make it so it wouldn't be viable in pro play. Unfortunately, that has failed. It is more limited, though, guys. It is more limited. At least what we've seen in LPL so far has not been a crazy number of Yuumi bans. You just ban Zeri instead.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.